Welcome back to The Fellowship, where we talk about love, loss, and legacy, and trying to find out what exactly can you do to mitigate any kind of chaos that may come in case you don't plan for either. We build legacies that outlive us. Winnie Maingi is my name. I'm a certified trust and estate practitioner working here in East Africa, and I would love to walk your family through its plans in case you have to decide what kind of plan works for all of you. If you are new here, I guess we all have been new for the last 2 weeks. But if you're really new and this is the first episode that you're watching, I'd like to encourage you to just subscribe, like, comment, leave a question, whatever you would like to know, because as we tackle the real life issues that surround estate planning, we understand that everybody needs to create a plan for the time that they're sitting down to decide about it. Thank you very much for lending me your ears, and let's get into discussing exactly what happens in case there is no plan. What are these chaos we keep talking about, and what are the real life consequences that we are dealing with as estate planners, as lawyers, globally and in Kenya, trying to navigate people's plans or lack thereof. Imagine a situation where you have been left behind by the breadwinner. We met Wanjiru and Festus last time, and we understood a little bit about what could have been dealt with if Festus had a will. But now let's deal with actual consequences that happen. And I will deal with them with 3 different persons in mind: the breadwinner, the minors, and the property owners. So when we're dealing with the breadwinner, we're talking to you who earns an income, you who runs a business, you who owns that property, you who loves to invest and understand the investment landscape, you who's probably going to succeed your parents' business, you who wants to set up a business with your spouse, with your friends, with your siblings, you as a group of siblings who are now trying to navigate your parents' property, you who are dealing with your elderly parents, you who are getting married, you who are getting children and living life as is. Every day we make many decisions about what to do, where to go, who do you live in your house, how is it cleaned, what to eat, where to work, whether you need to earn an income or not, whether you need to put that income into an investment or not, who to invite into your home, who to not let into your life. We also deal with breakups and we deal with loss. When you're navigating all that, if you do not contemplate the effects that come with that, then we deal with the consequences of that lack of decision. I'll give you a picture of a gentleman who stems from the highlands of Kenya. He has property, good property, 100 acres worth. He also has a family, a young wife. He has been managing a business because he had a bride previously. He has been managing that business with her, but she died and he was left to take care of the business that they were just starting out. Because they were young and they did not have much in their hands, he managed to successfully put that business into a company. He became the shareholder of that company. He took over the employees that they were contemplating to acquire. He also took over the desires that they had and put them into an action plan. Then came in a new person. He decided to marry that person, decided then to get a child with that person. So from his first marriage, there was no child. But from his second marriage, there is a new child. The young second bride is 10 years younger than him. So in his imagination, she's gonna outlive him. And we surely hope she's gonna outlive him. But in the event that she doesn't, there needs to have been a plan, right? If you've been here for the last 2 weeks, you've understood that a plan is not just what we imagine as a plan around real assets. We plan around real decisions. So imagine this gentleman has not made a plan. He already had loss, and it probably disoriented him in one way or another. But because there was no child, there was no real property, he decided he is able to navigate that situation on his own without any real consequences. But now here we come and we see that he has fallen ill. He's been diagnosed with a condition that will require him to be in a hospital environment weekly, and there is no guarantee that he's going to make it out of the treatment in full capacity. So he might either have to live with a caregiver, or the treatment could actually lead to the loss of his life. That is a real decision. If he had no plan, and these consequences have to be met by his second wife and their young child, what are the consequences that you imagine would be there? I will urge you to please grab a glass of water, come back, let's talk about what kind of consequences maybe the young wife will face, and see another story of what exactly could happen to you or the people that you love in case there is no plan. So, what if this gentleman actually accelerates the time when, his expected loss of life happens, and it's probably in a month or 2? If he doesn't make a plan or chooses to face his disease without considering his spouse or his child, then these are the things that will be real life consequences for his spouse. She would be left in the care of a child without a potential income earner for the rest of her life. She will also be left with a potential heap of burdens that he acquired because he runs a business. These burdens include employee salaries, maybe a decision to close down the business, maybe a decision to continue acting on the business. But is she a shareholder in this company? No. So what the registrar will expect to see is that she went to court to gain access to these particular shares. The reality of this is, when you go to court today, you will be required to follow 3 steps in order to successively transition what you believe belongs to your family into that family from the person who has passed away. The first step would be gathering the information. What is that? How do they own the property they have? Who is the beneficiary? Who were they taking care of? And who was actually owning it, right? We already saw who we need to discuss when we're writing a will last week. You can go back to that episode and try and navigate that decision in your mind and understand how a will comes into play to answer the who if you're in that space of planning your estate. But here we are. The spouse needs to deal with now gathering that information for themselves, presenting themselves to the chief of the area where the person passed away and the chief of the area where she and her spouse used to reside. Why do they need to do that? Because there is need for verification. 1, that this person has passed away, so she needs to be bearing the burial permit to confirm that this person passed away. She also needs to be bearing the death certificate, and to confirm that she is married, she needs to come in with her marriage certificate. Why? Because she needs to claim her right as a beneficiary. Then on top of that, she needs to come in with the birth certificate of her child to confirm their right as a beneficiary as well. Once she does that, the chief will write a letter confirming who she is, how she was related to the one who has passed away, and how her child was related, and that they need to go into succession. With that particular confirmation, which may take you a day, may take you a week, may take you a month, depending also on how fast you're navigating those decision-making opportunities, and if the other family is involved in this decision-making as you're moving along. Say that she's already collected her chief's letter. What happens? She goes to the National Register of Persons to collect a further verification letter that will now be presented into the court of proper jurisdiction to be able to do the succession. How do you determine the court of proper jurisdiction? You need to know the value of what it is that you're taking to court for succession, how much it is worth, how much is that land worth, how much is that house worth, how much is probably the shares that you have worth, so that the court can also get permission to listen to you, one, deciding who your administrator is, and then two, who gets to become the beneficiary of that entire estate. That is where the estate comes into being. See, the estate is not only the property, the estate also includes your beneficiaries and the decision makers within that particular estate. Then that person will also be forced to wait for the Gazette notice to be issued that they want to be an administrator. And if there are no challenges, which most often than not, there are no challenges to who becomes an administrator in that situation, they will then proceed to do what we call a distribution schedule and allow the court to see how they want to divide the assets that belonged to the person who passed away into the family. So take it that this company, the 100% shareholding belonged to the spouse, the husband. What does the wife do? She needs to make sure that she knows the name of the company, how it was registered, how many shares she is devolving, either to herself or to a vehicle that can hold it for the benefit of her child. That step-by-step process may sound like a week's involvement, but in between caring for her child, grieving the loss of her husband, and also navigating the different authorities' offices, it might take her maybe 6 months, at least a year, to just navigate all that and bring it to the purview of the court. But in that year, what has happened to the business? Have the employees been paid their salaries? Have the suppliers been paid for the goods that they have brought or the services that they have given? Have other partners been satisfied with the obligations that the company had to them? Have the loans been paid if the company had gone into debt? Has her rent been paid? Has the land been paid for its rates? Has the child been going through school? Has the school fees been paid? All that needed a conversation, a simple conversation between herself and her husband to determine exactly what would happen in case you're not here. And also, maybe she would have been brought into the know in case there was some money that she needs to collect somewhere and she can gain immediate access. The process of succession is what gives you the access. If you do not create a plan today, choose not to write a will, choose not to set up a trust or have any plan in mind, that process will have to be carried out through the court. But if you decide that you want to create that plan, then you can steer the process back into the power of the person that you choose to trust the most with the things that you have and the people that you take care of in your day-to-day. So the real life consequence in that spouse's life is time wastage, maybe resources wasted, because you're probably paying different people to help you navigate the process and try to explain this needs to happen at this point, this needs to happen. So she's probably spending what she had not prepared to spend. And you're also spending in terms of legal fees and court fees that you had not prepared for. Therefore, if they just see that they're following up some monies that would eat into their own savings or would gain more debt than they would get in terms of assets, I think that person would give up, don't you think? That real life consequence of time wastage and resources spending where you had not prepared for them is what we call a real life consequence of no estate plan. What other consequence lies await? Maybe you have an insurance plan or you have a retirement benefits plan. The information that you have regarding that plan, whether that be your policy number or your member number in that particular scheme, does not flow to your family unless you give that information. Therefore, you will have to wait for the person to come claim, this being the insurance company or the pension provider. And until they claim, you have no obligation to sit there and say, I will do this, I will pay you, I will do. No. That person has to come claim. And if they do not claim, the government has provided a law that allows them to collect what has not been claimed from the financial system for the last 3 years, for the last 5 years, for the last year, for certain faster resource mobilization. So the unclaimed financial assets will have its authority collect all the unclaimed financial funds into itself, so that in case someone needs to come claim, they'll no longer be claiming from your financial institution, but they'll be claiming from the authority itself. So they will collect it into the fund and wait for you to come and collect what you believe was due and owing to the person who passed away. That process adds on to the time that you're taking to collect everything that you have. Did you really need to give them that running around of 6, 8, 12 months, or even up to 2 years to just harness information that you could have easily put down on a piece of paper and allowed them to know exactly where you have placed your financial assets, where you have placed your savings, where you have placed your investments? All that could have been put down on a piece of paper, so that if I have access to the information, then I know how I can therefore go and get access to the actual funds. Come back and let's discuss another real life consequence around the children or the minors in someone's estate. Let's talk about the children. We say we get children because we love each other, and we say we also love our children. We're not here to discuss the aspects where people decide not to take responsibility over the children that they get in this lifetime. We're here to talk to you who is a loving parent, who thinks about the future of your children and would imagine yourself in that future. But have you imagined yourself not being in that future? And how would it look like for those particular children to navigate life without you? Is there something that you can do to make sure that all factors considered, they will at least meet their basic human rights? They will eat, they will have a roof over their heads, they will have some Medicare, they will also have some schooling experience where they'll be able to fend for themselves at the end of their education journey, and that someone can take care of them. At the very least, their emotional and psychological welfare will be met. It's not automatic that your co-parent will take over that role or will be able to carry forward that role in 100% the fashion that you're used to them being. In some situations, you find that in case a breadwinner passes away, the other person automatically becomes the breadwinner. And they need further support to navigate their children's lifestyles and provide for them as best as they can. If you leave them without a plan or without an information plan, then you have thrown them into the world of chaotic distributing their children. If that spouse, for instance, decides they need to go and work out of the country and they need to be supported by someone who can take care of the children within the country, where should they turn to? Should this have been their sole decision to make? If it is, isn't it easier to just ask them to make that sole decision? Or does it need to be a family committee decision where their voice becomes smaller and smaller in trying to decide what happens to their children going forward? Secondly, children have a lot of needs that come in to their day-to-day existence that they have no control over. They do not control where they live. They do not control where they go to school. They also don't control what they eat. They can't tell you this and this are the decisions that are made around me unless they're left without a guardian. And in that situation, they're left to either look for the guardian for themselves or to be at the guardian's hostage. Where the guardian decides they go to school is where they will have to go, even if it is not their parents' desire or their parents' capability. You probably have taken out an education policy or an endowment policy, and you've named the minors as beneficiaries. Did you know that a minor cannot be paid the benefits of a life insurance? That benefit will be paid to an adult in the event that you pass away where that child is still of minor age. If that adult is your co-parent or any person who you claim to be your family member or your trusted kin, if that person truly cares for your children, they would probably hold that fund for the benefit of your children for as long as it exists. But that is fewer than most. In most situations, they tend to hold that fund to their benefit because they believe they have been passed on the responsibility of a child they had not planned for. That is for the easier options where there's actually funds streaming down to support a child or to support the guardian of that child to give care for the sustenance of that child until they are 18. Imagine a situation where there's no liquid fund, no insurance has come in, no savings have come in, you only left a house and some land. You have actually given over the power to either sell that property or to use that property to the guardian's willful need until your child is 18. They may probably not sell it, but they will use it to their own benefit, knowing that the child is still their responsibility. They have no obligation to give them certain things because you didn't say so. They only have an obligation to care for that child. We've heard of a real life consequence of a child where they come in and they become the help in the home where they are supposed to be given care. They become the help. They are bounced up between families. They are bounced from uncle to auntie to brother to child. They are bounced between families so much that the child simply decides, I no longer want a family when I am 18 years of age. That has not only perpetuated a loss in your own name as a family person, but it has also given them a loss that they're not able to sustain. Will they desire a family when they're able to heal from that consequence that you had the key to free them from? Will they be able to heal enough to create a family for themselves or to simply support someone else in society to not have to go through that? We've heard of many people thrown into poverty, and most of them being children, but they had come from very wealthy parents. Why do they do that? It's because the adults in their situation do not feel the need to support them with finances unless you had left some, or they will only support them with finances up to their ability. So if they're left in their grandmother's care, that's the standard that they will maintain. What their grandmother says is what will happen. If they're left with their uncle, what their uncle says is what will happen. So the only thing you're left to do is decide for them who gets to be in the care of the child. We've already seen the spouse and maybe how an administrator can be impacted by your lack of making that decision. But for a child, the consequences run deeper. They run into who they become, how they're able to step up and become their valued persons in society, or they may languish in poverty until someone comes to their rescue, if they ever come to their rescue. I want to talk about the third and final person being any other person who may not be a child, maybe is not a spouse, but you've been taking care of them in your lifetime. Maybe you're taking care of your elderly parents, or you're a caregiver to someone who is trusted to you in your life. If you are the caregiver and you're not able to pass on that particular responsibility through an estate plan, then what you have essentially said is, I'm the only person who can take care of you, and I don't desire for you to be taken care of if I'm not here. But that would be a very unfair position, especially where a person is extremely vulnerable in society and requires extra support, whether they need a special needs nursing care or they simply need someone who can live with them for the rest of their lives. You as the caregiver have full authority over that person's life, so much so that in the estate plan that you now want to make, you should consider them. If you are giving food and shopping to your parents, it is okay and well advised to make sure that that is placed within your will, that they're able to receive something from your estate should you pass away before they do. It is our desire that we outlive the people who depend upon us. But in case you do not, you need to have a clear direction on how to navigate the resources you have and the resources that you've been gathering around your life for them to continue life in the best way possible. They don't need to navigate loss of you and also navigate the loss of dignified living. We have to balance out the lives that we are living today, the real life consequences that will be faced because of our indecision or because of our poor planning. Creating an estate plan is an act of love. It means that not only are you living well, but you're freeing your mind knowing that you need to live well in your lifetime today. But in case you don't wake up tomorrow, you will also live well. Thank you for listening to me. Winnie Maingi is my name. Come back next time and we will be discussing a lot more regarding the tools that we set up for estate planning, how our system has navigated the environment to help us create those tools, and how you can do it at the comfort of your home, or you can get a professional advisor to help you put your thoughts together.